It's Ethereum Saturday, and a few setups actually emerging on Ethereum. Want to be following up on the ones from last week as well, and maybe even some Ethereum Bitcoin pair action as well. Other than that, I want to welcome you back to the Air Crown Crypto channel. It's a lovely set. It's not so lovely, actually. It's very, very dreary outside. In fact, it's July. It's fucking July, Finland, but oh well. Life goes on. Anyways, let's just jump right into this one. I want to waste no more time, and let's get to the fun stuff right off the bat here. So first things first, looking at Ethereum versus the dollar. This is just kind of like your regular general chart on the weekly, which is going to be closing tomorrow, not today, but it is within the midst of having a silver cross confirmed. That yellow 21 exponential moving average is about to cross the upside of the green 55. In fact, we can even use Caretaker's reverse formula over here to see exactly what price would need to be closed above in order to force that cross. And as you can see, it will be 1845. So assuming that Ethereum just doesn't dump about $50 or so in the next 24 hours, or I guess it's actually more like 44 hours because it's 1 day and 20 hours from right now, then that will inevitably be happening, and I would be looking at that as relevant, or at least a good example of this cross to be likely played out as long as Ethereum is especially above the yellow moving average, that 21 exponential moving average, which is currently in the very low 1800s. If I go throughout the history of Ethereum, is there any other examples of this cross? Really only, one. You could maybe even stretch it and say two, but in this case, the only prior one that really matters is this one over here, coming off of May 2020, obviously. Now, I'm not going to even do a measurement on it because it's just, n equals 1 is not all that helpful. But generally speaking, when we do see silver crosses across any time frame, that time frame does go into a trend motion, especially when the consolidation was right around the moving average cross, which this would be a damn good example of that. So in this case, assuming that Ethereum closes above that region, again, anywhere above 1845, and then remains above the 21, I will be looking at that as a likely trend emerging, which emerging can take a long fucking time, apparently, as we've seen. Ethereum and Bitcoin essentially go sideways here for, on Ethereum, it's like going all the way back to April. We've seen the same range, and Bitcoin a little bit more to the upside. But ultimately, yes, I would be looking at that as relevant. And of course, the next major area to the upside still remains and has been 2100, the summer highs from this year, and I believe also last year as well, meaning that if Ethereum can actually start to close above that 50% region, I would be looking for the next major leg up, probably somewhere between 2520 to 2600-ish region. So pretty damn sizable move. Anyways, moving on to the next chart, I want to go over an Ethereum setup. This one coming off the skeleton key, which I'm sure I'll get a lot of questions about a little bit later. And also in combination actually with the 3-hour time frame that we looked at last week. But the 3-hour time frame, it's actually still viable there. Same thing with Bitcoin. Like those setups there, it's not that they've been nullified nor verified, it's just they haven't been nullified, so they're still existing. But another setup has actually emerged within this past week as well, and that would be on a 12-hour time frame, where we do see the 12-hour is closing below that blue 50% of historical returns range lows right here, ever so slightly, but yes, it does exist. And that combined with two other factors, one of them being a decline in the moving average of volatility, represented by the BBWP indicator right here, plus the PMARP levels being below 50 percentile, has aligned with a nice setup long term if we go ahead and use a strategy tester to back test this one. And in this case, the overview will show that it did have just over 69% win rate right there, which is nice, not bad. 69%, great number indeed. Over 42 total closed trades, and that brings us back many years. I believe 4 years. If we go through the list of trades, it should bring us back to 2019, so about 4 years of tested history right there. And if we look at the performance summary, this particular setup, if it is going to be a winning trade, has actually on average produced over 14% move to the upside. On the losing side, comparable to the downside as well. If we look at the amount of, or the average amount of bars in the winning trades, that was 24 versus 51 in the losing trades on average. So again, we have another example here that the longer that time goes on, the more and more likely this one is to be a failure. Past that, this would be 12 days on average marker. So how far along are we within this current one right here? Well, this one fired off on the 18th. It is now the 22nd. So that means that it's been about 4 days now. And again, because it's already slipped my mind. Yes, the average amount of bars in winning trades has been about 12 days. We would be looking, I suppose, over this next week Yeah, somewhere around this next week, as a little bit more than this week, I guess, 7 to 14 days, this next couple weeks stretch here, that if this one is going to play out, we do expect it to move. So again, we do see another thing that does suggest a higher probability of an upside move. But if Bitcoin or Ethereum in this case does not move to the upside within that sort of time frame, the probabilities will once again twist to the downside. And this is why I think it's very, very important to understand, the probabilities on both sides. It's like, you can kind of start to come up with more unique ways of, let's say, managing positions in this case. Anyways, I'll show you the settings in a bit here for the people who actually do have the skeleton key, and I'll actually show you where to get it as well, because I know emails are incoming. But what essentially would invalidate this current setup right here, technically speaking, the way that this one is not, the way that this one's defining it is not going to be too helpful. But I would say that, hey, look, anywhere below these last few lows over here at about 1830, 1825-ish region, yeah, that's going to do it for me. Anywhere below there, this one very likely has a much more sizable move to the downside alongside Bitcoin as well. Very, very similar to Bitcoin below, I believe it was 29,500 is going to be similar to Ethereum below about, let's call it 1820 on a closing basis. At that point, not only is the upside move invalidated, but we're very likely to see another significant move to the downside. Bitcoin, $1,000-$2,000 to the downside, and Ethereum probably close to like 1650 or so before the next potential bounce attempt. But in this case right here, if it does play out the average, let's just kind of get our Let's get all excited in the early morning hours. What would 14% move to the upside look like? That would put Ethereum at 2160 plus, which would be essentially in alignment with the April highs thus far. So that would essentially imply that Ethereum, retest those highs, doesn't actually break above those highs, then that could ignite a much more sizable move over time. But for right now, I do want to show you first what the settings for this are. It's a very simplistic one right here. We do see, it's an HPDR setup essentially. Closing below the blue range lows, boom, there you go. And PMARP levels below 50 percentile, and take profit at 84 percentile. So pretty high. That's why it does take a little bit longer, and why the returns are, on both sides are pretty massive. Obviously, moving average on BBWP needs to be negative, blah, 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 blah. Settings right there. Basic risk, and trading actually on all days. So of course, I know I say this all the time, but I do want to kind of lessen the effort for our customer service team. And yes, you can get this script for yourself. It actually comes with another one as well over here on the store. That is the same place where all the things are available. It would be called, what did we actually call this one? Crown Quant Automation. Yeah, there you go. All right, sweet. Okay, that's enough of that. Let's get over here into the HPDR ranges for Ethereum on the 4-hour time frame. I mean, it's kind of just telling us more of what we just looked at actually. Short term to the downside, or relative short term to the downside, 1840, 1835-ish region, getting very, very close to that 1820-ish region that I outlined earlier. But according to this time frame, that's what the maths would show, is where this one would start to break down. And by the same token to the upside, 1969, a big number to the upside, with the average of the range coming in at 1905. But the average of these ranges, like, I don't put too much weight on them unless you start to see, really multiple closures above. So in this case, if we do start to see multiple closures above, then yes, at that point, Boulaws have the ball in their court for a short-term move to the upside into the mid-19s, let's say. But other than that, looking at stochastic momentum, I thought it was very, very interesting right here that we may very well see the weekly stochastic momentum turn to the upside tomorrow, assuming that Ethereum closes above 1770. Also, is this really a regression right here? It's more of a regression in this case, but guarding against the neutral zone, or getting out of the bullish control zone in this case. So assuming that Ethereum does close above that region and simultaneously closes above 1845, well, we'll see a silver cross the upside, plus this turning up as well, momentum oscillator, and then we'll even see, this setup over here would still be relevant, I suppose. Anyways, going back into it, we can go down the different time frames. 5-day time frame is going to be showing upside momentum above 1845 or 1843. Again, that number continues to pop back on up. So big pivot there. Below there, big downside. As long as Ethereum's above there, upside, still, I would say more likely. At least that's what the statistics do, which would suggest. 2-day time frame going to be headed down heavy below 2006 actually, so not good right there. Daily also down below 1926, so still corrective on the short term. 12-hour time frame actually going to be headed up above 1885, just a few bucks away from current price action. 6-hour time frame also going to be headed down below 1893. 4-hour time frame going to be headed up above 1888. You can see again, there's just a massive differential between all the different time frames, and an hourly going to be up above 1893, which is actually below right now. So, what does that align with in the short term? Probably more sideways. But as we outlined over here, sideways in this region around 1900 is going to be better for the Bulaws than the Barraws. So fair enough. Anyways, what time is it right now? 10:28. Yeah, that's probably a good place to be leaving off on this one. Was going to be going over the Ethereum Bitcoin pairing. Well, why? All right, just a second here. Just a damn second. All right, last week we looked at it. We said, hey, probably a bounce in play, maybe even all the way up to like 6.9 million Satoshis. Does that look right? Sorry, 6.5 million Satoshis. Sorry, 6.5 to maybe even 6.6 million Satoshis. Haven't really seen much of anything in the past week. I mean, this has been basically sideways here, so not really super helpful in that, to be quite frank, but probably still looking at the same thing right there. However, I do still look at this as overall lower highs, so while short term probably does bounce, meaning a bit of relative strength, still look at this one as more long term, as probably likely to trade to the downside, but short term upside, and maybe it reclaims one of the more critical regions back above 7 million Satoshis. Things start to change around a little bit, so fair enough. All right, that's a good place for me to be leaving off. As always, want to be wishing you the best. Take care, much love, and see you hopefully Sunday.